Our final student speaker now is Ruben Robinson, who will tell the story of Mike Keiser. So let's bring Ruben up while I come to introduce him. Thank you, Sandra. Ruben is currently a senior at Austin Business and Entrepreneurship Academy in Chicago. He has plans to study business management and music at Columbia College next year. Ruben appreciates being challenged, which is why he enjoys his college-level math class, writing original music, and even training as an MMA fighter in the 152 weight class. MMA fighter, do you know what that is? I mean, that means you take every discipline, all the martial arts, you pour it into one, and you just go out there and you make sure you win, and that's what works. And I think he looks pretty darn good. I think he's winning on this game. I kind of did a once-over, but I was very impressed. Anyway, he recently participated in Junior Achievement's first annual JA You're Hired event in May of 2012, where a panel of volunteer judges awarded Ruben the title of Top Salesman and Top Negotiator. I asked him, I said, how did you come across that? And I asked him what he sold. He goes, well, we sold all different things. They just gave him a list of bullet points, and he just went out there and did the job. So I thought, this is a guy who can think on his feet. I'm putting my money on him later down the road. Well, he said his greatest accomplishment as well from this event was obtaining an internship at Vibes Media by networking with some of the Chicago business professionals in attendance. So we want to welcome Ruben as he goes to introduce our next laureate. Also, you want to be the boss. There are lots of bosses in here, so I think this is going to be another rising star. So let's have Ruben here.
Thank you, Kim. Tonight, it is my honor to tell the exciting story of entrepreneur and visionary Mike Keiser, former co-founder and CEO of Recycled Paper Greetings, the current creator of famous Bandon Dunes Golf Resort in Oregon. Mr. Keiser started his business at the age of 10 in the small town of East Aurora, New York. He was the founding president of the Treehouse Club, which he and his brother Bruce built from lumber they found around their neighborhood. After a year, their total revenue was $1.85. However, the costs were zero, and they quickly learned any profit equals success. From there, Mr. Keiser moved to the summer caddying job for $2 per round at the East Aurora Country Club. It was out on the course where he learned how to present and market his skills to what he called a somewhat skeptical audience of adult golfers. Throughout his high school career at Nichols School in Buffalo, New York, Keiser attempted other toilsome vocations such as home building, landscape maintenance, and house painting. With his obvious work ethic and drive, Mr. Keiser graduated in 1963 and was accepted to Elmhurst College. Regretfully, Elmhurst expelled Mr. Keiser in the spring of his freshman year for disciplinary reasons. Undeterred, he headed to Europe to pursue a different course. Without a college education and very limited funds, Mr. Keiser had to work at Rigmanton Electric Razor Assembly Plant in Frankfurt, Germany. Before moving to a Christmas tree farm in Malmö, Sweden, he was also a translator for Eastman Kodak in Paris, France. Within a year, Mr. Keiser returned to his original plan of completing a higher education. Mr. Keiser succeeded in reapplying to and enrolling in Elmhurst in September 1964. He truly valued his education, but Mr. Keiser felt his most valuable college experience occurred after his sophomore year, where he successfully solicited construction work by going door to door and selling his skills in the suburb of Anchorage, Alaska. From 1967 through 1970, Mr. Keiser was enlisted in the U.S. Navy as an explosive ordnance disposal officer. It was during this time that he met and married his wonderful wife, Lindy Kern. Out of the Navy, Mr. Keiser and his wife, Lindy, joined forces with college roommate Phil Freeman to begin Recycled Paper Products, an unconventional greeting card company with the intent to sell cards printed on 100% recycled paper. It was the first year of the Earth Day when the two men began their journey to reverse the environmental impact of producing greeting cards in a technologically feasible and surprisingly cost-effective way. Their initial startup capital was $1,000. The team employed local Chicago artists to create their designs. They ran their first portfolio of cars through a very small and tediously slow printer. Their hard work paid off when Marshall Field's department store began to show interest in their ideas, purchasing $10,000 worth of cars for the upcoming holiday season. This achievement sparked an overnight success for recycled paper products, and their partners soon found themselves as players amongst some of the largest greeting giants in the industry. By 1985, sales had grown to 100 million, and the team's humorous alternative car styles had become the new normal for consumers. One artist in particular, Sandra Boynton, owes her success to the opportunity she was given by Mr. Keiser and Mr. Freeman to design a line of cards with her signature farm animal cartoon characters. Although the partners' original intention of having all greeting cards manufactured with recycled paper wasn't fully adopted by other competitors, it is safe to say they made history and revolutionized the industry for the better. In 2005, the owners sold their company, and Mr. Keiser redirected his focus on another growing passion, golf course design. Mr. Keiser never planned on being in the golf course business. Played them, yes, but built them, no. In 1986, he had purchased 90 acres of sand dunes near his summer home in New Buffalo, Michigan. Within a year, he convinced himself to build a 9-hole course pattern after the world's best golf course, Pine Valley. When his course called the Dunes Club opened, it was positively reviewed as nature perfected by the Golf Architecture magazine. Energized by the success of the Dunes Club, he invested $2.5 million in 1,200 acres of open land on the Pacific Ocean in Oregon, with the aspiration to build a seaside golf course on the sandy property. Despite telling friends that the project could be Mike's folly, Bandon Dunes was immediately proclaimed one of the best courses in the world. He followed it with Pacific Dunes, which received even more awards. The November 2011 issue of Golf Digest magazine rated Bandon Dunes as the #1 golf destination in North America. Through all of his busy day-to-day activities, Mr. Keiser also makes time for the philanthropic efforts most dear to his heart. He and his wife have supported the Daniel Murphy Scholarship Foundation and the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago for over 20 years. Mr. Keiser also led a campaign called I Am a Caddy for the Chick Evans Foundation, helping hundreds of young men and women attend college and graduate debt-free. His most recent endeavor will be to chair the board of Teach for America. Mr. Keiser is proudest of his children, Lee, Dana, Michael, and Chris. He welcomed his first grandchild, Oliver Linden, into the world 2 years ago, and in late August of 2012 added 2 more into his beautiful family, little Henry and Adam May. Everybody please welcome to the stage, Mike Keiser.
Thank you very much, Reuben. Mr. and Mrs. Robinson, Reuben's parents are here, and don't we all agree that they should be very proud of that young man? I am tremendously honored to be here. Like Deb, I feel that perhaps I shouldn't belong here, but I wasn't in charge of the nominations and the vote, so I feel very fortunate and tremendously honored to be here tonight. My comments really are directed to the students in particular, because anyone in high school and pre-high school wonders how you get started, and these comments are directed to those students who ask that question. One of the great things about business, and especially starting a business, is that you quickly find out if anyone out there wants to buy your new gizmo or your new product or your new service. You almost can't know until you put out a for sale sign. Until then, it's just speculation. And before you get that far, you are told that for every startup success, there are 10 failures, which is true. One of the things I've noticed in my own set of experiences is that almost everyone older than you are will tell you that you're crazy to start a business. In truth, they are just trying to protect you. They're often your parents, but just old people in general think it's a bad idea to start anything. And they're just trying to protect you. When Phil, Lindy, and I started Recycled Paper Greetings in 1971, my father, who was a Wharton graduate, counseled me nicely but firmly that business school was a much wiser choice, that the greeting card industry was full of sharks and it was no place for 3 nice new college graduates. Better to go to business school than to be shark bait. And in terms of logic, he was correct. Business school was the closest thing to a slam dunk at that time, and starting a business was a 1 in 10 proposition. We started it nevertheless. We ignored the old guy. Similarly, with Bannon Dunes Golf Resort, everyone I knew, this was even more negative, even more skeptical than the greeting card company, everyone I knew, without exception, said it was harebrained to build a golf resort 5 hours from the medium-sized city of Portland. That would be like driving, they said, to St. Louis to play golf, and no one would do that. It was a harebrained idea. Use of the word harebrained, for you students who don't know the word, is not a complimentary term. Since harebrained means having a brain the size of a hare or a rabbit, a small creature with a very small brain. So when someone says that's a harebrained idea, they really mean only a person with the brain the size of a rabbit could have conceived of a plan so foolish. A nicer way to say you have a very small brain is to suggest an expensive market study that would prove conclusively that building a golf course 5 hours from a medium-sized city is truly a harebrained idea. In order to save the cost of a market study, I called my friend Steve Lesnick, who was and is one of the great golf course industry experts, and invited him to come out to Bannon, which hadn't been developed yet. It was just my idea. If I could tell him my idea and if he would spend a couple days on site, which he did. And I went into great length why people would drive 5 hours from Portland to come to this place, and he listened and very patiently walked the site, and then at the momentous conclusive time stopped and very dramatically looked at me and said, "If you think that anyone is going to come here to play golf, you're out of your friggin' mind." You notice he didn't say it was harebrained. My point to these students is that if you want to start a new company, virtually no one is going to tell you, "Oh, what a good idea." All they will see is risk, and all they want to do is protect you. So if you want to start a company, expect to be lonely and alone until it's clear that it's working. And then your family and friends will say, "What a great idea. We are so proud of you." And a few of them will say, "We knew that was a winner all the way." One other thing about starting a company or a business, sometimes it's not obvious how long it will take to judge yourself a success or a failure, and that's important. Obviously, the sooner you break even, the better, but it just may not be a matter of years. It could be a matter of years. It could be a matter of many years. You won't necessarily know in a week or a month or a half a year. Sometimes it's a long timeline till you get there. When Lindy and Phil and I started the greeting card company, it actually took 5 years for us to get the product right. We broke even for the first 5 years, but it was a long haul until we finally got it right with Sandra Boynton, as you saw, and sales exploded. But 5 years is a long time. As for the golf course 5 hours from Portland, which is certainly was then and is now a remote place, it was an immediate smash hit. No one, including me, had any idea that it would succeed as it did, and it only took a couple of weeks to find out. So my message is, when you start something, you can't be impatient or unusually impatient. It could be quick and it could be a long time until you know whether it works or not. You just never know. So here's what I say. You have to be passionate about your product or service, and then you have to be willing to be all alone while you find success or failure. Starting an enterprise is all about taking a risk with your money, your time, and most of all, your life. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, two giant entrepreneurs, each took a big, big risk with their lives and succeeded in a very, very major way, in a way that most of us will never know. In the process, they created growth opportunities for tens of millions of people around the world. Just amazing what those two giants could do. The world needs more creators, more job creators. The world needs more entrepreneurs, and we hope many of you young people will learn from the JA and become those job creators. Thank you very much.